I feel my hands shake uncontrollably as doctors rush my tiny son away from me. His entire body could fit in my palm, 1 pound, 10 ounces of fragile life, born at 25 weeks in 1 day. Too early. Much too early. Mrs. Whitlow, we're taking him to the NICU, a masked figure tells me, already moving toward the door. Your son needs immediate respiratory support. My son, Micah, a name we'd only settled on last week, never imagining he'd be wearing it so soon. I feel like dying out of fear, yet I need to get a grip of myself and be strong. The words catch in my throat. The room spins slightly as I try to lift my head from the pillow. Can I see him again? But they're already gone, whisking away the child I carried for barely 6 months. Grant squeezes my hand so tightly it hurts, his face pale beneath his usual tan. He's going to make it, he whispers. But I hear the question hiding in his statement. My son was born fighting for his life, and I soon discovered that wouldn't be his hardest battle. The next morning, a nurse wheels me through the sterile corridors of St. Hilaire Medical Center. The Denver hospital will become our home now, an unexpected detour from the carefully planned nursery waiting at our house. When we reach the NICU, I barely recognize the bundle behind the glass. Micah lies nearly hidden beneath a maze of tubes, wires, and monitors. His skin appears almost translucent, his chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow movements that seem more mechanical than natural. His tiny arms, no thicker than my finger, are restrained to keep the 4 lines in place. He's beautiful, Grant says beside me, his voice breaking. I can only nod, afraid that speaking might shatter whatever fragile magic is keeping our son breathing. Can I touch him? I ask the nurse. Not yet, she says gently, but soon I hope. The word hope hangs between us like a tenuous lifeline. Grant takes more extra shifts at work than I thought humanly possible. Nights, weekends, holidays, anything to maintain our Care First insurance coverage. We'd been so proud of our savings, $34,000 carefully tucked away for a down payment on a bigger house once the baby arrived. Now that money vanishes like water in sand. The emergency C-section alone decimates our financial cushion, and each day in the NICU adds another mountain to climb. We'll figure it out. Grant insists when I mention my worry. Micah's what matters now. I nod, just to reassure both me and himself. I establish a routine that becomes my heartbeat. Wake at the Aurora family house at 5:30, shower quickly, and arrive at Micah's incubator by 6:15. I sit beside him for 14 hours each day, talking softly, singing occasionally, always apologizing that my body couldn't hold him longer. You're doing everything right, Nurse Jolene tells me on day 62. She's the night shift nurse who often stays late into the morning, checking Micah one extra time before leaving. Most NICU parents can't be here this consistently. I don't know what else to do, I admit. Well, I have some news that might help, she says, glancing at Micah's monitors. His oxygen levels have stabilized for 3 consecutive days now. That's significant progress. Really? I look at the numbers on the screen, trying to decipher their meaning. Really? She confirms. In fact, Dr. Peterson thinks you might be able to hold him tomorrow, skin to skin. The words barely register at first. Hold him. After 64 days of watching him through plastic. Are you certain? My voice sounds strange to my own ears. As certain as we get in the NICU, Jolene says. It's a good sign, Lena. The next day, they help position Micah against my chest. He weighs almost nothing, but the warmth of his tiny body seeps into mine. His heart beats rapidly against my skin, a hummingbird rhythm that gradually steadies as we breathe together. Grant watches from the doorway, his eyes wet. Look at that, he whispers. He knows you. For the first time since Micah's birth, I feel something unfamiliar bloom in my chest. Hope. The feeling lasts exactly 3 hours. That's when my phone rings my mother's ringtone. I haven't spoken to my parents since they criticized me for marrying too young at my own wedding. But now Pamela Whitlow's voice flows through the speaker, cheerful as if no time has passed. Lena, darling, your father and I are passing through Denver next week and just heard about the baby. We're planning a surprise visit to meet our grandson. I stare at Micah, at the fragile progress he's made after 64 days of fighting, at the machines still breathing for him, at the monitors tracking every heartbeat. Mom, I begin, unsure how to explain that in this room, there's no space for surprises. Especially not from the people who'd labeled my marriage a mistake from the start. I look down at my son, who has fought through so much already. Who needs a protector more than I need my parents' approval? We need to talk about visiting hours. I say firmly, my hands finally steady. I will not anyone hurt my baby, not even my family. A day later, the automatic doors of St. Hilaire Medical Center slide open, bringing a rush of autumn air and 3 unwelcome visitors. My parents stride through the hospital lobby as if they own it, their leather shoes clicking against the polished floor. My father, Wesley, stands tall in his charcoal suit, my mother, Pamela, beside him in a beige pantsuit that probably costs more than our monthly mortgage. Behind them trails my brother Trent, his attention fixed on his phone, thumbs tapping frantically. There's our girl. Mother says, air kissing near my cheek, her perfume heavy with jasmine and privilege. Trent finally glances up. So where's the kid? His eyes dart back to his phone, barely acknowledging the miracle fighting for his life down the hall. He's in the NICU. I explain, my voice smaller than I intend. We need to check in at the desk first. There are protocols. Protocols, Father scoffs, already walking toward the unit. We're only stopping by for a few minutes before Trent's interview. Don't make such a fuss about the rules. Nurse Jolene intercepts us at the NICU entrance, her usually warm face serious. Welcome to our unit. Before entering, I'll need everyone to wash hands thoroughly for 2 full minutes, remove watches and jewelry, and please silence all phones. Father brushes past her. I've been on hospital boards for 30 years. I know how these places operate. The NICU room feels impossibly small with my family inside. Warning signs cover nearly every surface. Critical equipment, oxygen in use, and do not touch medical devices. Micah lies in his incubator, each tiny breath a victory. Grant stands by the doorway, tension visible in his jaw. Father walks the perimeter of the room, inspecting equipment like he's conducting an audit. I shrink into the corner, my body instinctively making itself smaller. The power dynamic established in my childhood reasserts itself, Father commanding space, me surrendering it. My entire life, the familiar repetition overwhelms me suddenly. Your office set this interview up months ago, Trent tells Father, glancing at his watch. Roberts and Blackwell is top tier. If I land this, I'm set for life. Father nods approvingly, then suddenly bends down, examining the wall outlet. A bright red emergency outlet with clear labeling. Critical life support. Do not unplug. Monitored. This one's available, Father says, casually unplugging a cord. Before I can scream, Trent kneels beside him, phone charger in hand. Need to look over my notes before the interview, he mutters, plugging in his iPhone. The monitors erupt in a symphony of alarms. Numbers flash red on Micah's screen, oxygen saturation plummeting from 94 to 86%, 0.8, 2%, 0.79%. Each descending digit punches through my chest. What's happening? I cry out, lunging toward the incubator. I feel hopeless watching my son fighting for his breath. Micah's tiny chest works harder, struggling for air that isn't coming. His skin, previously pink, takes on a bluish tinge around his mouth and fingers. Nurse Jolene bursts through the door with Dr. Alsace Walker right behind her. They move with practiced urgency, eyes immediately tracking from the screaming monitors to the disconnected oxygen supply. Who unplugged this? Doctor? Walker demands, reconnecting the life support while Jolene adjusts Micah's oxygen mask. No one answers. Who unplugged this equipment? She repeats, voice sharp as a scalpel. Father straightens his tie. How was I supposed to know that outlet was important? I needed to charge my phone. The room freezes. Even the monitors seem to pause in disbelief. You? Unplugged clearly? Marked life support? For a phone charger? Jolene's voice trembles with controlled fury. Dr. Walker doesn't waste time on words. Her hands move in a practiced dance over Micah's tiny body, adjusting flow rates and checking vitals. Jolene assists silently, their teamwork a choreography of crisis management. Long, terrifying minutes pass. My heart threatens to pound through my ribs. Grant's hand finds mine, squeezing so tightly it should hurt, but I feel nothing except the desperate prayer that my son survives this. Finally, the primary alarm stops. The secondary ones quiet shortly after. Dr. Walker's shoulders drop an inch, the first sign that immediate danger has passed. He's stabilizing, she says, eyes still fixed on the monitors. But his oxygen saturation dropped dangerously low. She turns to face my family, professional mask firmly in place, though her eyes burn. He's lost at least 4 days of progress. A few more seconds without oxygen could have been catastrophic. You're exaggerating. father says, reaching for his phone. These machines are designed with redundancies. Dr. Walker blocks his movement. I'm calling security. That's completely unnecessary, Mother interjects. It was an honest mistake. Wesley sits on the board at Horizon Health Group. He understands medical equipment. Then he should recognize the severity of what just happened, Dr. Walker responds, pressing the security button. 2 security officers arrive within minutes. After a brief explanation, they firmly escort my family toward the exit. Father protests loudly about misunderstandings and overreactions. Mother keeps glancing back at me expectantly, waiting for me to defend them. Trent says nothing until they reach the doorway. Then he turns, face tight with anger. Thanks for ruining my interview day. As I watch security lead my family away, I'm torn between lifelong conditioning and new maternal instinct. The hospital administrator suggested pressing charges for endangering Micah. But what would that mean? Would seeking justice against my own family make me as heartless as they had been? Or was protecting Micah more important than maintaining toxic relationships that nearly cost him his life today? The answer waits in the steady beeping of Micah's monitor, in his tiny chest rising and falling with each precious breath. Now that he is stable, I am more resolute. No one can hurt him. Later that day at hospital, my phone buzzes against the plastic table for the 6th time. I reach for it, fingers trembling slightly, then pull back. The voicemail count has reached double digits now. Pamela Whitlow, my mother, refuses to accept defeat. When I finally listen, her voice fills my ear with practiced indignation. Lena, this is getting ridiculous. It was just an innocent mistake. You need to stop the hospital from blowing this out of proportion before someone gets fired. The message cuts off, only to be replaced by another. Call me back immediately. I delete them all, but the texts prove harder to ignore. Aunt Susan, family should forgive family. Uncle Richard, think about what this will do to your parents. Cousin Beth, nobody meant any harm. Why tear the family apart over an accident? My phone chimes with an email notification from Wesley Whitlow, Hospital Administrator, Horizon Health Group. The subject line reads, Concerning recent events. The message is brief, clinical, as if dictated to a secretary rather than written to a daughter. Lena, my position at Horizon Health Group affords me certain connections within the healthcare community. Those connections extend to St. Alara. Consider how your current actions might impact not only family relations but potentially Micah's ongoing care. This situation can be resolved privately. Wesley Whitlow, MHA. I stare at the screen until the letters blur. Not a single inquiry about Micah's condition. Not one question about his recovery from the oxygen deprivation. Just thinly veiled threats. The final message arrives that evening while I sit beside Micah's incubator. His oxygen mask looks enormous against his tiny face. My mother's voice cracks with what might be genuine tears. Your father could lose his job over this. Is that what you want? For your spite to destroy our family? I place the phone face down on the chair beside me and watch my son's chest rise and fall. Rise and fall. The hospital's fluorescent lights cast shadows across Micah's face as his little body works twice as hard as before. His oxygen levels hover at 87% better than yesterday's 82%, but nowhere near the stable 94% we'd achieved before Wesley unplugged his support system. The setback is written in numbers on the monitor, in the additional wires now attached to my son's translucent skin, in the concerned glances nurses exchange when they think I'm not watching. At midnight, I drag myself back to the Aurora family house, checking my phone hourly for updates from the night shift nurse. Sleep comes in scattered moments between alarm settings. Grant arrives at dawn, the shadows beneath his eyes telling their own story of double shifts and overtime. His uniform bears the coffee stain from yesterday, evidence he went straight from work to a second job. Any change? He asks, lowering himself into the chair beside me. They increased his oxygen support again. The doctor says it might be another week before we're back where we were. Grant nods, too exhausted for words. His calloused hand finds mine, squeezing gently. Every time the NICU door opens, my heart stutters. Every approaching footstep near Micah's incubator sends adrenaline coursing through my veins. I find myself scanning faces, assessing intentions, watching hands. The hospital, once a place of hope, now feels like territory I must guard. Mrs. Whitlow? I start at the voice, turning to find Dr. Walker standing beside me with 2 paper cups of coffee the next morning. The rich aroma cuts through the antiseptic hospital smell. "Thought you could use this," she says, offering me one. "Thank you." The warmth seeps into my palms. "Doctor." Walker settles into the chair beside mine, her white coat wrinkled from what must have been a long shift. She watches Micah's monitors for a moment before speaking. "He gained 2 ounces overnight." "Really?" I lean forward, studying the numbers as if they might explain this small victory. "Really," she smiles. "He's a fighter, just like his mom." For the first time in days, something besides fear flutters in my chest. I feel there is still hope for us. Later, I find myself in the hospital chapel. Not to pray, I haven't done that since childhood, but because it's the one place my phone doesn't ring. Stained glass casts colored patterns across the empty pews, painting the world in reds and blues and golds. The door opens behind me. Grant slides into the pew, his shoulder pressing against mine. "Your father called me at work," he says after a moment. "Offered to cover all Micah's medical expenses if we drop everything." "And you said?" "Nothing." I hung up. Grant turns to face me fully. "Lena, this isn't about family anymore. This is about protecting our son." A sob rises in my throat, unexpected and raw. "They're making me choose." "Number." Grant's voice is gentle but firm. "They made the choice when they put a phone charger above our son's oxygen." In that moment, I realize my responsibility isn't to my parents, but to the child who depended entirely on me, who couldn't speak for himself, who trusted me completely to keep him safe. "Elliot Barnes," I say, pulling out my phone. "Your friend from college. He's a malpractice attorney now, right?" Grant nods, something like pride flickering across his exhausted face. I dial the number, and with each ring, the weight on my shoulders lightens incrementally. When a voice answers, my own sounds stronger than it has in days. "Elliot? This is Lena Whitlow. I need your help." That afternoon, Nurse Jolene stays 3 hours past her shift, meticulously documenting Micah's recovery timeline. "You'll need this for the case," she says, her voice steady, time-stamped evidence of the setback. Dr. Walker provides detailed medical reports, complete with before and after comparisons of Micah's respiratory function. "The data speaks for itself," she says, sliding the folder across the table. The head of hospital security stops by with a flash drive. "Surveillance footage," he explains. "Shows Mr. Whitlow ignoring 3 separate warning signs before unplugging the outlet. Judge will want to see that." I gather these pieces, building a fortress of facts around my son. In Elliot's office the next morning, legal terms replace medical ones. He speaks of Colorado Penal Code SQUN 86401, 1AI, reckless endangerment of a minor, of negligence and willful disregard, of evidence and testimony. "This is textbook," he says. "Your father knowingly created a situation that endangered Micah's life. The surveillance footage makes that clear." I nod, organizing the documents chronologically as he speaks. A business card falls from the stack Trent's, with his Georgetown Law School email printed beneath his name in elegant font. My hands, which trembled uncontrollably when Micah was born, are perfectly steady as I open my laptop and begin composing an email to Georgetown's ethics committee. My son is my priority. Everyone must understand that. I feel my fingertips grow steady as I organize the stack of documents on Elliot's glass conference table. The pile tells Micah's story in cold, clinical terms, medical reports, incident forms, witness statements, all chronicling those terrifying moments when my father unplugged my son's oxygen. "We need to be methodical," Elliot says, spreading the papers into neat columns. His tie hangs slightly loose, the only sign that he's been working on our case since dawn. The security footage is particularly compelling. Grant nods beside me, his jaw set in a way I've rarely seen. "Will it be enough?" "More than enough for criminal charges," Elliot replies, selecting a form with blue tabs already attached. "Reckless endangerment of a minor, tampering with medical equipment, both serious offenses." "What happens next?" I ask, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "Your father's response will determine a lot," Elliot explains, clicking his pen with a practiced motion. "He might try to settle quietly, or he might fight. Either way, we're prepared." The formal charges feel heavy in my hands when I sign them, not with the familiar shakiness that has defined me since Micah's birth, but with the calm precision of someone who finally understands her purpose. Later that afternoon, my phone lights up with an unknown number. It's District Attorney Jackson. "Mrs. Whitlow, I'm calling to let you know we've flagged your case as a priority," she says, her voice direct but kind. "What happened to your son shouldn't happen to any child." My father's counterattack begins with startling swiftness. Within 48 hours, Wesley Whitlow mobilizes every hospital connection he's cultivated during 20 years in healthcare administration. Dr. Moore called me. I tell Grant that evening while checking my phone for updates from the NICU. Apparently, Dad tried to convince him that this was all a big misunderstanding that's being blown out of proportion. Grant's laugh holds no humor. What did Moore say? That Dad should hire a good lawyer. The calls from my childhood begin next: Stephanie from elementary school, Lisa from high school swim team, even my college roommate Rachel. All with the same hesitant tone, the same rehearsed message. "Pamela's worried about you, Lena. She says you're not thinking clearly." I block each number after politely thanking them for their concern. The local news breaks the story on Tuesday morning. Horizon Health Group administrator placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The article doesn't name Micah, but it mentions allegations involving endangerment of a patient. When Nurse Jolene arrives for her shift, she brings the newspaper clipping. "Your father's workplace is conducting their own investigation now," she says, her eyes bright with vindication. "They're reviewing all of his past decisions since learning what happened." That evening, as I sit beside Micah's incubator, watching his chest rise and fall with increasing strength, I wonder about the settlement offer that arrived by courier that morning. $500,000 in exchange for my silence and dropping all charges. Financial security for Micah's future versus a public case that might protect other vulnerable patients from similar negligence. The money would solve so many problems, but would justice be better served in the open? 3 days later, an email arrives from Georgetown Law School's Ethics Committee. The formal letterhead and carefully worded acknowledgement of my detailed account regarding Trent Whitlow sends a chill down my spine. "We take such matters extremely seriously," the email states. "We request copies of the security footage and hospital documentation to support our investigation." I forward the email to Elliot, who calls within minutes. "I've never seen an ethics committee respond this quickly," he says, surprise evident in his typically measured voice. "They must consider this significant." "Will it affect Trent's standing at Georgetown?" I ask, uncertain how I feel about that possibility. At minimum, those internship offers he's been bragging about will be put on hold pending investigation. The ripples spread outward. Dr. Walker mentions that several physicians in the healthcare community have been discussing Wesley's administrative leave. Nurse Jolene overhears from another patient that my mother's church group has quietly uninvited Pamela from their annual charity luncheon planning committee. When Trent's message arrives, it pulses with raw fury. "Do you know what you've done to my career? Over a stupid outlet?" I stare at my brother's words for a long moment, then set my phone down beside Micah's incubator. My son's tiny fingers curl reflexively around my pinky, strength growing day by day. The beeping monitors show stable oxygen levels, heart rate strong and regular. I touch his translucent cheek with one finger, feeling the warmth of his skin. The answer to Trent's question rests here, in this quiet moment between a mother and the child she would burn down the world to protect. "It was never about an outlet," I whisper to Micah. "It was about you. I am going to fight for my son with every means possible." Next week at the main gathering, I feel the plastic chair creak beneath me as Wesley and Pamela Whitlow appear in the doorway of the Aurora Family House common room. Their unexpected arrival sends a jolt through my system. They haven't called ahead, haven't asked permission. "Typical. Lena," my mother says, her voice honey, sweet as she steps forward. Her cashmere sweater looks freshly pressed despite the long drive, and her pearl earrings catch the fluorescent light. "We need to talk." My father lingers behind her, his hands trembling slightly as he clutches a leather portfolio. I've never seen his hands shake before. In my childhood memories, those hands were always steady when pointing out my failures, steady when dismissing my achievements that didn't align with his expectations. "You should have called first," I say, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. "We tried." Wesley steps forward now. "You've been ignoring our calls." "For good reason." Grant appears at my shoulder, a solid presence. He doesn't speak, just rests his hand on my shoulder. The weight of it anchors me. "We have a proposition." My father continues, opening his portfolio to reveal a stack of papers. "We'll pay for all of Micah's medical expenses, everything. past, present, and future care. All we ask is that you drop these ridiculous charges. My mother's smile tightens. It's a generous offer, honey. Think about what this means for Micah's future. Your brother's future is at stake, my father adds, his voice dropping to that familiar, authoritative tone that used to make me shrink. Georgetown is reconsidering his acceptance. His summer internship offers are in jeopardy. Is this revenge really worth destroying his life? I feel something shift inside me, not a trembling, not fear, but a solidifying. I reach for my phone, pull up the most recent photo of Micah. For the first time since his birth, no breathing tube obscures his tiny face. His eyes are open, alert, focused on the camera. Look at him, I say, holding the phone where they can both see it. This was taken yesterday. He's breathing on his own now. My mother glances at the screen, then away. That's wonderful, dear, but this was never about money, I continue, standing straighter. This was about accountability. Accountability? My father's voice rises. It was an accident, Lena. For God's sake, we're family. An accident? The word tastes bitter. The outlet was clearly marked. There were warning signs everywhere. You deliberately unplugged life support equipment. You've changed, my father says, his eyes narrowing as he studies me. You used to be so reasonable, so willing to keep peace in the family. The accusation that once would have crushed me now slides off like water. Peace at any price isn't peace at all, I tell him. It's surrender. Grant's hand tightens on my shoulder, a silent signal of support. We're done here, I say. I'll see you in court. 3 days later, I sit in the back row of the downtown courthouse, watching as District Attorney Jackson stands before Judge Watkins. The projection screen shows security footage that I have now seen dozens of times, my father deliberately removing the plug from an outlet clearly marked with red tape and multiple warning signs. The defendant's actions showed a reckless disregard for the safety of an infant in critical condition. Jackson says, her voice firm. The warning signs were explicit. The outlet was clearly marked for life support equipment only. My father sits at the defense table, his shoulders hunched in a posture I've never seen before. When the judge denies his attorney's motion to dismiss, he seems to shrink further into his expensive suit. Outside the courthouse, I spot a news van with the Channel 9 logo. A reporter holds a microphone facing the camera. Former hospital administrator faces jail time for endangering premature infant, she announces as we walk past. Wesley Whitlow, who previously served as chief administrator for Horizon Health Group, is charged with reckless endangerment after allegedly unplugging critical life support equipment to charge a cell phone. Grant shields me from the cameras, but I don't feel the need to hide. Each step I take feels grounded, deliberate. That evening, my phone pings with a notification. It's an email containing Horizon Health Group's public statement. Horizon Health Group is deeply disturbed by the actions of former administrator Wesley Whitlow. These actions do not reflect our commitment to patient safety and ethical standards. Mr. Whitlow has been terminated from his position, effective immediately. Another email arrives minutes later, forwarded from Trent. The letterhead reads, Georgetown University Law Center, Ethics Committee. I scan the formal language. Reconsidering your admission in light of recent events, and rescinding internship offers pending investigation. The consequences ripple outward like stones dropped in still water. The next morning, as Grant and I enter the NICU, Dr. Walker meets us with a smile that reaches her eyes. I have good news, she says. Micah is strong enough to be moved from the NICU to transitional care. Really? The word comes out in a whisper. She nods, leading us to the incubator where our son lies. He's reached 4 pounds, she says, pointing to the digital scale beside him. His oxygen levels have been stable for 48 hours. He's ready for the next step. I lean over the incubator, marveling at how much he's grown. When my finger touches his palm, his tiny fingers curl around it with surprising strength. I feel tears well up, not tears of fear or worry, but something else entirely. No one will ever hurt you again, I whisper to my son, a promise I now have the strength to keep. Next 5 years will pass in blink of an eye and we will grow even stronger. 5 years later, I watch Micah race across our backyard, his sturdy legs pumping with a confidence that still amazes me. The spring sun catches his hair Grant's chestnut color, but my unruly waves as he launches himself off the bottom step of our deck. Watch me, Mommy, I'm flying. 5 years. Some days it feels impossible that this robust, laughing 5-year-old emerged from that translucent 1-pound 10-ounce bundle of fragility. No oxygen tubes tether him now. No monitors track each precious heartbeat. Just a boy with his father's smile and boundless energy that exhausts and delights me in equal measure. Grant catches him mid-leap, spinning him in circles that draw peals of laughter. Airplane Micah coming in for a landing. My camera captures the moment instinctively, another addition to my growing portfolio. My photography business specializes in NICU graduate portraits. Parents seek me out specifically, having heard my story through the hospital grapevine. The one who understands, they call me, a title I wear with more pride than any degree. Later that afternoon, I stand before a circle of shell-shocked parents in St. Hilara's newly renovated NICU Parent Support Lounge. Their faces mirror what mine must have looked like 5 years ago, the particular pallor of sleep deprivation mixed with relentless worry. The day my son was born. I begin, my voice steady. The doctor told me he had a 15% chance of survival without major complications. A woman in the front row stifles a sob. Her son was born yesterday at 26 weeks. Yesterday, that same son scored his first soccer goal. I continue, bringing out my phone to show them the video. This journey isn't measured in days or weeks. It's measured in breaths, in ounces gained, in moments of connection that seem small but matter enormously. Dr. Walker, now the NICU director, slips into the back of the room. She catches my eye and mouths. "You're doing great. Lena taught us all about real strength," she adds aloud when I finish speaking. "How to fight without breaking, how to bend without surrendering." The parents surround me afterward, hungry for hope, dressed in flesh and blood. I give them my card, my time, my understanding, the gift no one could give me when I started this journey. Sunday brings Micah's 5th birthday celebration. Our modest backyard overflows with the family we've assembled. Nurse Jolene, Grandma Joe to Micah, helps him position his firefighter hat before he leans toward his cake. "Make a wish, sweetheart," she encourages, her hands steady as they were the first time she helped me hold my son. Dr. Walker and Elliot arrange presents while swapping hospital gossip. Grant's parents man the grill with good-natured competitiveness about whose burgers will disappear first. Grant raises his glass once the candles are blown out. To the family we chose, who chose us right back. Later, after guests have gone and Micah sleeps surrounded by new toys, I open my desk drawer. The newspaper clipping has yellowed slightly. Former hospital administrator serves 6 months for endangering infant. Wesley's sentencing, Pamela's probation and community service. Trent's case study appearing in legal ethics classes as a cautionary tale. I close the drawer without regret. Morning brings Micah with his toy stethoscope, pressing the plastic disc against my chest with exaggerated seriousness. "Beep, beep, beep. All good, Mommy." His questions come without warning as we make pancakes. Do I have other grandmas and grandpas somewhere, like Tommy at school? I measure my words carefully, watching his curious eyes. Some people aren't safe to love us, so we built a family that is. He accepts this with a child's simple wisdom, returning to the critical business of selecting chocolate chips. As I watch my son grow stronger every day, I sometimes wonder if there will ever come a time when reconnection with my parents might be possible, or if some bridges, once burned, should remain ashes. Would you try to rebuild what was lost, or focus on protecting the precious new life you've created?